do something called the firing line. I'm going to fire some names at you.
Absolutely. Please do.
Some that you may be slightly prepared for an answer, some not so much. I will have to, and I hate to say this, I have 7 minutes, and then I've got to run because of I've got the school run to do today, so I've got to go to it. So I'm going to throw a ton of names at you, and the first one is Mick Foley.
Great guy, deserves all the success in the world.
Brian Lee, since we've mentioned him several times before, but you are a fan.
Brian Lee is the high school quarterback, like they talk about Brad Armstrong, the funniest guy in the locker room. Brian Lee, the funniest guy in the locker room, taught me more about the culture, how to survive in a territory when you're not making any money. Had 2 girls in Johnson City that came to the shows together that we both dated, so we double dated a lot. Funniest guy. He had this awesome sense of humor and things that I still use to this day. He came up to me one day and he said, Cordy just said if he had one more like you around here, he could fire the rest of these dipshits. I was like, wow, really? He's like, no, I'm going to blow you next. I just want to put you over. I can blow you. Can I suck your dick next? He had that sense of humor. So Brian Lee, ace is in my book, one of my top 3 favorite guys.
Yeah. Do you know where he is now? I mean, after like maybe 2003, he just seemed to disappear off the map.
My understanding, he lived in Nashville. The last I heard was he had a training school in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know anything else. Supposedly he was half brothers with the Bruise Brothers, by the way.
Yes.
But supposedly. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
It makes a good story either way. I'll mention the next one.
They look alike.
Tammy Sytch. Or Fitch, if you prefer.
Man, that's a tough one. I met Tammy when she was 19 years old, and she wasn't the super bitch yet. She could be, but she wasn't. And she didn't drink, she didn't smoke. She was an excited kid. She'd been a wrestling fan her whole life. I know she was screwing around on Chris even then. I'm not going to hold. It's 30 years. I'll tell what I want to tell. Right before they came, they'd been in Memphis. And the rumor out of Memphis was Eddie Gilbert used to book Candido on these long road trips. So Tammy wouldn't go. And meanwhile, Tammy stayed home with Eddie, and Eddie's fucking Tammy. I do know that Rex King was also staying with us and with Candido. And he came back one day just freaked out. I'm like, what happened? He's like, Chris is in the shower. Tammy put my stuff down and started blowing me. I'm like, whoa. So anybody who she thought could get her to WWE, she was nice to. Extra nice. She didn't turn into the super bitch. I remember the day her dad passed away, and then all of a sudden she started. I think the loss of her dad in her life really put her in a down spiral.
Yeah.
And then she's become the train wreck that she is.
But super talented as well. I mean, for all her faults, she seemed to get it straight away.
She was a natural, and she was a natural. Yeah, she really knew how to get heat. She was a heat seeker.
Okay,
she knew it.
Dirty White Boy, Tony Anthony.
Great guy. I thought he was like our Stone Cold before Stone Cold. He was a loud beer drinking hillbilly who had the tough guy. If he put any time in the gym, he'd have been a star. He'd have been a bigger name.
Tracy Smothers. Sorry.
Tracy Smothers is the legend. Everything they say about Tracy is true. And he recognized me from the front row of Greensboro and introduced me to everybody and put me over. And he was another one that come up. He's like, boy, we're all going to be working for this kid one day. You're going to be the promoter. And he put me over all the time. And I'm like, wow, yeah, okay. So can't say enough good about Tracy Smothers.
Killer Kyle.
Killer Kyle was like this big old basset hound or bloodhound, kind of like a mopey little guy, big old country boy. Kyle's two problems. He was a light-skinned black guy. So he used to joke, I don't have the complexion to make the connection. He was too light-skinned to be a gangster, and he was too dark to be a white boy, But the biggest problem with Kyle was he wouldn't stop doing jobs on Atlanta TV. Jimmy's trying to use him as his Bubba, as his tough guy bodyguard. But yet I just saw you on TV doing jobs to Alex Wright at 6:05. And I know Kyle had to do what he had to do because he wasn't booked very much with us. So he had to do what he had to do to get paid. But that prevented him, in my mind. But he was just a big old country boy, funny, just kind of moped around, just doop, 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 doop. But he's a good guy, real good guy.
This might be after you left, but Buddy Landell.
Oh, okay. So I have a great Buddy Landell story.
Please.
Speaking of Kyle says, hey, I'm going to work some for USWA. Can you give me a ride 45 minutes down to Knoxville? Buddy's going to pick me up and drive me to Nashville. I said, you're working at the Nashville Fairgrounds, the famous, there's Mid-South Coliseum, Nashville Fairgrounds, Louisville Gardens. I was like, I've always wanted to go to that building. I said, can I ride? Do you think He's like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. So we jump in the car. We're going to drive 3 hours from Knoxville to Nashville with Buddy Landell in his green Mercedes. Kyle's up front, and they're just telling road stories. Everything's cool. We go to the show. Everything's great. On the way back, we pick up a couple cases of beer. I'm in the back handing Buddy beer, and he's giving Kyle his, what do you call when you've been born again? You're whatever. He's telling him, brother, I go to the church every Sunday because Jesus, Lord. Hey, brother, pass me a beer. Every Sunday I'm getting good with the Lord and I'm getting straight. Hey, brother, give me another beer. And for 3 hours, he's giving us this sermon about how he's a born-again Christian. And I swear, James, every other sentence, hey, brother, give me a beer. 3 hours. Hey, brother, give me a beer. Buddy Landell was the most likable person. If he got you in his web, you were a Buddy fan. He was the most likable guy. But I mean, just here we are, 80 miles an hour. Hey, brother. Yeah. So Buddy was great.
Yeah, it seems that the more years go by, like Smoky Mountain, more people appreciate Buddy Landell as well. I'm going to give you a few last ones then. George South.
Didn't know George. Legend in the district, but didn't know him.
Al Snow. Is this too late?
No. Al came in and had a tryout match with Bobby Blaze, and I saw him in the back, and I said, "Hey, Al, great match." That was the shits. Okay, well, fuck you then. I was just trying to be nice. So I don't give a shit about Al Snow. He's where he deserves to be.
Bob Armstrong.
Oh, the best. The leader. I mean, he was the leader of the locker room. And he didn't have any infighting. All the boys in that locker room, White Boy, Tom Pritchard, his own kids, Tracy, they all came through Pensacola, Bob's territory. Tim Horner, they'd all worked with Bob. So Bob was the unspoken, he was the leader of the locker room. And everybody worked for him. So there's no infighting. We're all like Bob's kids. And I never saw a 54-year-old man boogaloo to the ring to bad to the bone and get crowd. He got a pop every night. He was amazing. He was awesome.
I'll give you two super quick ones then. James Mitchell.
Creepy, weird, brilliant, funny, super talented. He should have been the equivalent of our Paul Jones in that he should have had that whole bottom half of the card, his maniacs to himself, to work with a Jimmy Valiant type babyface. He should have had, we just didn't have the money to really keep him around and use him a whole bunch. Yeah, we should have, but he's very talented.
Yeah, he's very underused, I thought, throughout his career. And the last one, and both fans of him, Dirty Dutch.
Dirty Dutch. Man, my favorite thing about Dutch was after he left, went to Puerto Rico, he'd get bored, he'd call me. Kid, what's going on? Because he knew I'd stooge everything. What do I care? So I'd tell him all the dirt, because he's down there in Puerto Rico, he's bored, he's lonely. If you can't learn from Dutch, I mean, he's just the best storyteller, best guy to ride with, great commentator. When you hear guys now like Austin and Undertaker, the top guys in the business, talk about how much they learn from Dutch, I mean, there you go. So he was the teacher's teacher and the great storyteller, and loved to hang out with Dutch.